being recorded.
Welcome to Pittsburgh Sports Now. I'm George Michalowski, Pittsburgh Sports Now beat writer for Pitt basketball. But today we're going to be talking some college football with Mike Farrell of the Portal Report, National College Football Analyst. Mike, a lot going on in college football right now with UCLA, USC making the move to the Big Ten coming in 2024. So we're going to be talking ACC football focused on Pitt. How does this move by USC and UCLA affect the ACC conference?
It's going to be a scramble, for the Big Two, the SEC and the Big Ten, to try to gather more teams. They're in an arms race. This is Coke versus Pepsi. And the Big Ten has made their move now that, the SEC made their move on Texas and Oklahoma. So what you're going to start seeing is the ACC, the Big 12 is in big trouble, obviously. And so is the Pac-12. The ACC is kind of that interesting one, still has some power, have some power programs. Clemson's been successful. Miami's a big fish. Florida State is still, of interest. And they've got that East Coast viewership that's going to be of interest, both the SEC and the Big Ten. So they're either going to have to try to start adding teams to become the third mega conference, or they're going to be picked apart. And for a program like Pitt, they have to hope it's the former. They have to hope that the ACC stays intact, adds some teams, and becomes part of the three. Now, Pitt won't be left out. Obviously, their geographic location is great for the Big Ten, and I think that that's where they would fall in. But there's still the outside chance that programs like Pitt and Syracuse and Boston College and Wake Forest and some of those programs in the ACC that they could be left out. I mean, it's going to be whittled down. There's going to be about 50 left standing. And you have to worry if you're a middling program with not great attendance, who's in a good TV market. But I don't know. Pitt is going to be okay, but they would rather be okay in the ACC, if that makes sense.
Right, totally. You mentioned that the geographic location could work in Pitt's favor here, obviously with the Big Ten, but does that even matter anymore? I mean, we see, the potential of a USC against Rutgers matchup in conference. It doesn't feel like geographic location even will mean anything.
It does, because the Big Ten still has this congruent state feeling to it. They're completely, bypassing that by skipping states to go to the West Coast. But, I've heard that the Big Ten is interested in Colorado and Utah and Arizona State and Arizona because of that congruent state connection and to lessen travel. USC volleyball playing a game in Piscataway is not attractive. Football is one thing. It makes a lot of money. Basketball makes less, but it's also up there. The other non-revenue sports are going to suffer from this. So, having Pittsburgh right there, it's much better than they're off where Syracuse is, or they're off where Boston College is, where they don't have to go into those TV markets. Because remember, the last realignment was all about TV markets and all about cable boxes and stuff like that. Now it's not about that as much anymore. Now it's just a sort of a power shift for TV negotiations. Pitt doesn't bring a lot to the table. This isn't Tony Dorsett, Dan Marino Pitt. This is a good program with, without their own stadium, without great attendance, but that's Miami as well. Their geographic location to me is important, because that's what the Big Ten wants, is they want another stopping zone. They don't want Penn State to have to go out to UCLA every year and play. They want them to go play Pitt. And that's going to be one of the considerations.
Interesting. At this point, what do you think is the next domino to fall? I know yesterday there were reports of Oregon and Washington exploring other routes, trying to get, ahead of everyone, trying to get to the front of the pack and join on to these future super conferences. So what do you think is the next move here that we'll see?
I think the next move will probably involve either Washington or Oregon going to the Big Ten. They have that resume that the Big Ten likes. The only program over the last many years that the Big Ten has added that didn't have the resume they like from an academic standpoint and other areas is Nebraska. And they did that obviously for the fan base and to, try to continue to move into, the West, or at least, firm up the Midwest. But Oregon and Washington will probably be next. But keep an eye on, Colorado, Utah, Arizona State as a 4-pack or somebody, because there's talk of the Big 12 is interested in them as well. And if they could bring those 4 in, the Big 12 is scrambling for survival also. The ACC needs to bring Notre Dame in somehow, which I don't think is possible. But, the more these mega conferences are put together, the more pressure there is on Notre Dame to actually jump to one of them. They've flirted with the Big Ten forever, but they've had this agreement with the ACC for a long time. But Notre Dame would be the last domino to fall. The next ones will be either Washington and Oregon or those 4 I mentioned.
Interesting. Well, there you have it. Mike Farrell, national football analyst for the Portal Report, coming to us live with, the updates you want to hear on Pitt, ACC, college football landscape. So thanks, Mike, for joining the show. That's all you got for Pittsburgh Sports Now. I'm George Michalowski. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. They jumped in the portal, man. This is it. This is the portal for schools, and it's going to happen more and more and more. Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, guys.